Superannuation is every Australian's most important investment. The decisions you make now can have a large impact on when you can afford to retire and the lifestyle you'll enjoy when you do. There are so many companies to pick from for your super, but did you know that you can also manage it yourself? Edge Financial Services can help you take control of your super and plan for retirement with a self-managed super fund. There are many different ways for you to invest in your future. To find out more about investment strategies that will give you the edge in retirement, visit edge.net.au today.
Hey everyone, Scott from Edge Specialist Advice Network. Hope you're all well. Hey, today we've got another installment of What the Numbers Say, and as often we do, we're using visual capitalists. Those guys are great. So let's have a look today. We're looking at the most populous countries, so the countries with the most amount of people from 2025, so that's this year, and it's obviously projections into the future all the way through to 2100. So somebody has done a whole lot of data work, and they're projecting the next 75 years of population growth or population amount, which countries are going to have the most populations. I think one of the things to look at this first off is, interestingly, the total for the world peaks at 2025 for the amount of people, and then slowly tapers off to 2100. Now, these are future projections. Now, most future projections are usually incorrect. Ask any economist; they're never correct. Generally, they're usually always wrong, or at least their timing's always wrong. And however, I'm not sure why they think we're going to peak at 2050. And then go down at 2100. However, that 2100, so that year, the year 2100 in 75 years away, is still higher in total than what we are starting with today. But what I wanted to look at was some of the trends. So India's on top now, and India's going to remain on top. So look, and it looks like about the same amount of people. India to peak as the most populous country in the world by 2050, almost 7 billion. That is huge, but the one thing that we talk about India is the demographics are amazing. So they've got a large population under 30, like a huge, like their demographics are the proper triangle, a bit like Mexico, but also some of the African countries. So they've got a large younger base. So yeah, large younger workforce, people that can be productive, can support older people, also people that can be of military age. I think this one's interesting. China, this is sort of saying that China has peaked for the amount of people, and it's going from 1.4 billion today down to 1.26 billion, and then down to 633 million by 2100. So that is more than half. That is more than half of the population today in 75 years for China. And now, why would that be? And there's one word again: demographics. The demographics of China is kind of upside down, and that's been from the one child China policy all those years ago. They don't have a big bottom base; they've got this large older base, so they're in the upside down demographics, and that's what's showing in this graph. And that's some of the reason that a lot of economists, although they say China is the number one power today, they believe that they can't keep that in continuum because they just don't have the younger population coming through. And they're trying a lot of things now. They're trying to do incentivize 2 children, well, maybe even 3 children to a family. But the cultural setting was set all those times ago. And you've got to remember the one China policy wasn't just a law. It was propaganda. It was so generations of Chinese were brainwashed into saying that if you had more than one child, you are unpatriotic. You were hurting the collective group. And that takes 20, 30, 40, 50 years to undo, to realize that was a bad policy, and it was bad for the country, and it was bad for the population, in fact. So you can see why that hasn't, as much as the country's now turning around going, hey, look, remember that one child policy? Yeah, how bad now? We want you to have 2 and 3. The people aren't buying it. They're going, hey, it's too expensive. No, we're not doing it. Hey, our grandparents didn't do it that way, so why would we? So the replacement rate, we've spoken about that in other videos, is low. It's about 1.2, where they need about 2.1 just to keep up the existing population. That's why in this pictorial, we can see that the projection is that it's going to go less than half in 75 years, half the numbers today. So it's the trend that I wanted to look at. So the trend for India looks pretty solid, looks pretty strong. They're on top today for the amount of people, and they're going to be on top. They're going to peak 2050. Let's have a look at some of the trends or some of the trajectories as well. So the US at 347 million, projected to be 421, so an increase. It's just that it's not today. It's number 3 for most populous countries, and it's going to lose that to about number 6. Let's have a look at this. Look. I wanted to show the ones that are on the up. Okay, Pakistan. It looks like those numbers are going to double. So that's the trend and trajectory I want you guys to look at. Nigeria is one that stands out. We've seen Nigeria in a lot of things. GDP this year, Nigeria is going to be double digits, and they're expecting to double their population. And this is huge. Democratic Republic of Congo, starting right down the bottom here, today 113 million. They're expecting 433 million. That's big. And Ethiopia is another big one. So there's a lot of countries in Asia. Tanzania is coming out of nowhere here, down the bottom. So there's a lot of countries in Africa that are projected, have some big projections for population growth. And as we look forward into the back half of this century, so let's get past 2050, you can see that a lot of the African nations that are now starting to exert their own sovereignty over their own mineral wealth will become more, wealthier. And in those countries, that will lead to a higher population growth. You'll have less wars, less famine, more children, better standards of living, and things start happening. Economic activity starts happening. And this is also areas that we could be investing. So I've spoken a lot about the Global South, the BRICS nations, and these countries are part of those. And you can see that the trajectory for population growth, which will probably translate into economic growth and investment returns, which is what I'm sort of saying here, is going to be in the continent of Africa, especially up near Ethiopia, Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo. Look, don't forget Southeast Asia. We're pretty bullish on Southeast Asia and some parts of South America and Central America. Okay, but this is what the numbers say, guys. This is what it's saying for the populations. Looks like China is going to be eventually in a bit of trouble, and some of the African nations are going to start really firing once we hit about the middle of the century, so 2050. And look, you might be my age, you're nearly 50, you go, hey, Scott, I'll be 75, they don't really care. Yeah, that's okay, but you can explain to your children when you set your settings for your family legacy, or you want some family investments. Maybe you've got a self-managed super fund where you start to bring the kids on as members, what we think is a great idea. Maybe you've got a family portfolio of some stocks, different real estate investments overseas. You understand that in your children's time, parts of Africa are really going to start firing and look like they're going to be the real engines of economic growth, and the trajectory for those countries is going to be fairly large. So as a family office, or treating your life as a business, and where you start bringing in new business partners, which are your children, these are some of the things that you can impart on them, a little bit of knowledge. All right, guys, remember that's enough from me. Life is a family sport. Give yours an edge. See ya.
John's home-based tradie business has outgrown his garage. With work starting to pick up, John wants to take on an apprentice, upgrade the work ute, and move to an industrial shed. It was hard for John to get a loan because he has inconsistent income. John saw Toowoomba's Edge Lending, the business lending experts. Edge Lending was able to secure a loan to help grow his business by tapping into the equity in his home. Edge Lending Solutions, helping small businesses to grow.